Okay, there we go. Great.
Did you want to say anything at all, Brenda, before I start?
I was just going to introduce you. So
Okay.
welcome for coming, or welcome to this meeting. Thanks for coming to everybody. This is Jenny. She is here from the camp and she will answer all of your burning questions. So that was it. I will hand it over to you.
Great, brilliant. Okay, thank you everyone for joining us for this session. So as Brenda said, my name's Jenny and I work with SeaToSky Outdoor School. So I am a program director with them. So I work with them as program director, which means I'm doing the background admin. I'm also a coordinator, which means I'm designing the programs, and I'm also an educator with the team. So I'll be there when your students come along, and we're meeting them out in the forest on Gambier Island. We're really excited to meet everyone. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to share a presentation and I'll be doing a bit of talking for about 20 minutes. I'm going to try and keep it short and sweet, maybe a bit less if I can. And then as I go along, if you have any questions for me, if you could just like make a little note or a mental note, and then I'll wrap up and do questions at the end, if that's okay for everyone. All right, let's see if I can get this screen going. Okay. All right, can everyone see that? It works for everyone? Okay. Okay, so SeaToSky Outdoor School. So something I'm going to start with, I'll talk a bit more as we go along, is that we are a little bit different to some of the camps that some of the students might have been on, or summer camps that might have been on. So we are not that kind of focus around like rock climbing walls and high ropes courses and all the fun things, but we are a bit different. Our focus is around having students have a chance to connect with nature, to spend some time in the forest, spend some time in wild places. And we like to think about sustainability. We think about like how we can live well on this earth. Something that keeps me going is the reminder that while we can do all of this learning about what's happening in the world and things that are happening with our climate, things that are happening with our environment, all important things to learn. But we believe that it's hard to care for the earth if you don't have a connection with it. So we're hoping that in the 3 days they have with us, we can connect with nature a little bit. All right, so this is our leadership team. This is Shale and Robin. So Shale, or Tuckamore, is his island name. My island name is Hummingbird. Will be with us. These are the owners of SeaToSky. I'm actually in their house right now. We're on the Sunshine Coast. We just did a day of canoeing with a group of kids locally in the Sunshine Coast. You might get to meet their little kiddo, like Thistle, as well. So this is talking a little bit more about our purpose. That I've already mentioned a little bit about our focus. So preparing a new generation of leaders for the challenges and opportunities of sustainability. During a program, some of our goals are things to do with increasing knowledge and wonder about their home, expanding comfort zones. So something we'll talk about is that for some people, they're expanding their comfort zone is just spending 3 days, full days outside. And that's amazing. And some of it, it's going to be dunking their head in a creek if they're feeling really adventurous, or putting a banana slug on their face. So comfort zones look different for everyone. And we'll be practicing expanding our comfort zones in fun and safe ways. Practicing kindness and empathy, building a relationship with the land, thinking about lifestyle choices and effects on the environment in a guilt-free way. We're not here to guilt anyone. Reflecting on how they can contribute to building the kind of world they want to live in, and skills that will strengthen their home and school communities. All right, so let's think a little bit about where we're going to be heading. So Camp Firkham is the site that we use. So we don't run Camp Firkham, we use their site, and that is on Gambier Island. Gambier Island is on traditional unceded Squamish or Squamish territory. You can see it there on the map. It's that island that looks like it's got kind of 4 fingers pointing down. That is Gambier, just north of Bowen Island. And the students will be taking a water taxi there, a water taxi from Horseshoe Bay. That's the dock. So just right by the ferry terminal is where the water taxi leaves from the public dock. And Mercury is the company that we use. You've got a better map there. So the traditional Squamish name for Gambier Island is Ch'olquinech. We talk a lot about the importance of acknowledging traditional place names.
That's her screen.
Sorry? Oh, sorry, I think. I'll just make sure everyone's muted. Okay. Ch'olquinech is the traditional name of Gambier Island, and How Sound is the body of water that it's on. That How Sound is the English name, and Alquetzum is the Squamish name. So we'll be talking a bit about that with the students. Frozen, here we go. All right, so when we get to Camp Firkham, they will be given a site tour, and they're going to be staying in the Camp Firkham cabins. So each cabin is 16 beds, and the teachers will be giving us the groupings for what those cabins are gonna look like. This is the dining hall space. We are an outdoor school. I'm going to talk about this a bit in a moment, but we are aiming to spend as much of our time as possible in the outdoors. So that means that some of our meals will be outside as well. But the dining hall will probably be having dinners in the dining hall. These are just a few more spots around campus. So we've got lots of undercover areas. So if we do get hit with a lot of rain, which does happen in spring, we do have some kind of like inside outside, half and half kind of covered spaces that we can use. But the goal is, like I said, to be outside as much as possible. So we see the forest as our classroom, or the beach as a classroom, the ocean as the classroom. So some of our sessions are going to look something like this, like sitting under the trees, and learning from nature. Now the SeaToSky Outdoor School team, we have a team of what we call islanders, the educators that work with the students. Some of us, like myself and like Shale, are trained teachers, so we have teaching backgrounds. Some of us have backgrounds more in kind of outdoor ed and camp work. And we all have an enthusiasm and a love for the outdoors, and are really excited to share that with the students. Things do get a little bit silly along the way, so we ask kids to kind of be willing to be goofy with us. We have silly costumes, we have the morning band that wakes them up in the morning, we sing songs along the way as well, so we like to have a laugh and not take ourselves too seriously. We share learning and education through storytelling. So these are a couple of examples of the beautiful campfire spot that we have at Camp Firkham, where we can have a campfire and look at the mountains and the ocean as the sun starts to set in the evenings. And rule number 7, our rules for the islanders includes rule number 7, which is the most important, which is don't take yourself too seriously. So we are all about being silly with the kids. The kids want to cover their faces in mud, we'll cover our faces in mud too. The students will be split into clans. So each clan of about 12 to 15 students will have their own islander leading them, and they'll be doing their forest adventures and activities with their clan leader. And we're really encouraging people to say yes to new experiences. So the comfort zones that I mentioned earlier, we will be talking about what that looks like for different students and what it means to kind of expand your comfort zone. Because the nice thing about comfort zone is once you've expanded the things that you're comfortable with, that never shrinks back. And the rain, of course. Like I said earlier, there is a chance that we will have bright sunshine and be wearing sunscreen and sun hats. There's also a good chance that it's going to rain for a solid 3 days. I'll talk a little bit later on about how to be prepared for the rain, but we are outside in all weathers. So rain gear, rain pants, rain jackets are key to a good time. We have a selection of different programs at SeaToSky, and Fraser Valley is going to be doing the Go Wild program. Go Wild means going wild, so it means getting out into wild spaces and connecting with nature, but it also stands for something. It stands for Get Outside for Wisdom, Inspiration, and Leadership Development. So That looks like thinking about what it means to learn from the wisdom of nature, to be inspired by nature, and to think about some of our own leadership skills. Just skip through. These are some of the other programs that we do. And let's talk a little bit about what 3 days could look like. Now, our schedules change slightly depending on weather, depending on specific school preferences, but I can give you a general overview of the things that you are likely to expect. So big program circles are an important part of what we do. So we'll have opportunities to come together as a full community where we talk about what's going to happen each day, and talking about the theme for the day. We'll sing the program song. There might be a character that will come along and meet them and kind of guide them through that as well. Something we introduce students to at the beginning, which is important for parents to be aware of as well, is the concept of what we call island time. Now, island time is all about slowing down, connecting with the earth, connecting with yourselves, and connecting with each other, connecting with your friends. And so we ask students to leave, I don't know if anyone has cell phones, iPads, things like that, but we ask all of that to be left at home. We also encourage watches to be left at home. And the idea being that as a team of islanders and educators, we're in charge of, we carry a schedule. We make sure the kids get to dinner on time. We make sure that they finish their activities on time, just to give them that chance to kind of really just be immersed in their surroundings. And so we have what we call the island time box. For older kids, sometimes that looks like putting your cell phone in the island time box, but generally it's kind of like a metaphorical box of leaving your busy schedules, busy lives behind just for a few days. And we also introduce them to the idea of 96-4. So that means that it refers to the idea that most of us spend about 96% of our waking hours inside and about 4% outside. This is kind of like a rough estimate. And at Outdoor School, our aim is to flip that, meaning that we want to spend about 96% of our time while we're awake outside. So being ready for long days outdoors, and really only meal times, or if it's really pouring rain, will we be inside. Island names, please excuse the fuzzy photo. So I mentioned earlier, my island name is Hummingbird. Shale's island name is Tuckamore, which refers to the Tuckamore trees where he's from in Newfoundland. They're windblown trees. Students will be invited to come up with their own island names. They might want to do this before they join us. Typically, it's something that connects them with nature. It doesn't need to be local. It can be something that they feel inspired by. And we'll give them an opportunity to make name tags when they arrive, unless the school chooses to do it beforehand.
देखना क्या है
all right, and then we are an outdoor school. So like I said, a little bit different to like a summer camp. So we are still having fun and learning along the way. So every student gets given one of these little books, which is going to work kind of like a journal, somewhere they can write notes, sketch pictures of nature. Sometimes in their forest walks, they'll be doing activities that require them to pull these out. So bringing along some pencils and erasers is part of their packing list. And on the first day, typically we do the big forest walkabout, which is one of my favorite parts of SeaToSky. So that's going to be in each clan that I mentioned earlier. And it's a forest adventure. And so it's not your typical like wide open forest trails that you might be used to. It's a little bit of bushwhacking sometimes through the forest, but it's trails that we know very well. It's trails that SeaToSky has made ourselves. We've walked them ourselves. We know where we're going. We are well oriented in the forest. But for the students, it really feels like they're really fully immersed in nature. So it might mean walking up a slightly muddy creek. It might mean walking through thick ferns. And along the way, we'll be stopping for forest games. We'll be stopping for moments to just think and reflect and have conversation. Lots of like fun and silliness along the way, as well as some of that learning. This is just a map of some of the trails that we've trodden around Camp Firkham. And this is an example of some of the games that we might play. So we take risk very seriously, in that we believe students and adults, we all grow through taking risks, but we always want to make sure that we're taking safe risks. So we are all trained in wilderness first aid training. All of the islanders, we have our first aid training. And when we're out in the forest, we are always conscious of the fact that getting emergency help to an island takes a bit of time. So we're trying to mitigate risks by making sure that children aren't climbing really high on trees. When we are doing activities like this, where a student is blindfolded in the forest, which is a really cool and fun sensory activity to see if they can really tune into their senses through sound and touch. But we're making sure that it's safe. We have students around them to make sure that they're not, going into the forest where we can't see them. And it's a lot of fun doing things like that. They will have a chance to do our list of wild side challenges. One of those challenges is dunking your head safely with your feet securely on the ground in a creek or in the ocean if they want to, but some of them aren't as big and dramatic as that. Kids love making
for dad, mom.
And then we just got a few pictures of some of the things they might do. So things might get a bit muddy. They might meet some shore crabs, and we usually have a bit of time for exploring the beach, which is always fun. And spring just being a really great time to be on Gambier Island. Loads of things are growing, but foxgloves, nettles are growing, birds are nesting, loads of fun things happening, and fun things to notice in nature. Forest games, I mentioned earlier, so lots of time to play games out in the forest. And some wildlife along the way. So these are pictures. We've got great blue herons, deer. There's lots of deer on Gambier Island. The Squamish name actually refers to Gambier being an island of deer. It was a traditional hunting ground. So there's a strong chance they'll see some deer. Salamander, I can't guarantee. And if anyone has any concerns about anything like bears, Gambier Island really doesn't have bears on the island. Sightings are very few and far between. We all carry bear spray. If there is anything like that on the island, they always keep well away from groups of 15 children making loads of noise. But we're all trained on what to do if we do encounter any wildlife like that. The banana slug challenge. That's a banana slug on that student's face. And usually the first evening, we typically will end with what we call a campus fire, thinking of the forest as a school campus. And that'll be time to kind of wind down after a long day, sing some songs, play some games, tell some stories before we get ready for bed. Day 2 comes bright and early. The morning band wakes them up at about 7 a.m. and they come out of their cabins with their mug. So we'll talk about the packing list later on, but with their mug, they'll have some hot chocolate, they'll have a piece of fruit. And this is a little gap that we have before breakfast. So they'll have their hot chocolate and piece of fruit, and then we'll have what we call morning options. Morning options is like that little taste of camp. So it might be archery, it might be something, if some students want a more slow morning like me, it might be like a little morning meditation spot looking at the ocean and just spending some time sketching and journaling. Those options kind of look different each week, each day. Typically on day 2, we'll take our canoes out. We have these awesome big Voyager canoes. These canoes can take up to 16 people. They are a lot of fun to paddle, and they're really big, sturdy canoes, which is nice. So there is pretty much zero danger of anyone's toes getting even slightly wet. Canoes are another time for storytelling, seeing what we can see, and I cannot guarantee orcas, but it has happened. So we've got a picture of orcas there. But it's sea lions around, there's seals, there's seabirds, so there's usually some cool bits of nature to see. And then afternoon on day 2, typically, and not always, but we might do some what we call like wild side workshops. So it might be workshops thinking about sustainability. It might be creative workshops like this one. So this is a picture of what we call natural pigments, which is going out into the forest and seeing what you can find and grind up to make into paints, which is always a lot of fun. It might be something like learning how to build a small campfire. Sometimes we learn about wild edibles, like things in the forest that you can eat, and turning that into forest tea, which is always a good time. And sometimes we have kind of bigger sessions like this, like a bigger lesson or a bigger game. Some more wildlife pictures. And then we are at evening on day 2. So day 2, depending on what the kids need, we try and keep our schedule flexible. So we'll always be checking in with the teachers and checking in with the kids and seeing what energy levels are like. If they have a ton of energy left to burn, then we'll do a kind of like a high energy evening, skit night, game show, quiz night, something like that, something fun and silly. And if they're just exhausted after a long day, we will gladly do another campfire where we just wind the evening down in a slightly slower, calmer way. And day 3 kind of flies by. So day 3 is, again, we'll have those morning options, hot chocolate, fruit, and morning options that I mentioned earlier. And then it'll be a chance to kind of have a final debrief with your clan, think about some of the learning that you did that week, some of the challenges from that week. Having some breakfast and then saying our goodbyes in a big closing circle before heading off on the water taxi back to Vancouver. Here, let me just finish my screen share. Okay, that's the end of the slideshow. I'm just going to quickly mention a few things about packing, and then I'll open up to any questions that anyone has. So thank you for listening. I'm trying not to blah blah for too long. So in terms of gear, Brenda, you might have already had, I don't know if you've had a chance to disperse the packing list. Yeah, that's gone out. Okay, sweet. So everyone should have already seen our packing list. Students will have their big bag with all of their clothes, their pillow, their sleeping bag, all of those things in their big bag. Big bags, I recommend if you have a backpack big bag, it just makes life a bit easier getting off on and off the water taxi. There it is. That's the packing list. Yeah, so if you have a backpack big bag, that's great. Wheelie suitcases are doable. We can make it work, but a little bit harder for the kids to kind of lug those around on the gravel ground. And then they'll have their smaller backpack, kind of whatever backpack they use for school is probably fine. And that's what we call our go gear. And again, you have a list for go gear. That's going to include things like warm, dry layers. So being ready for cold and rain, and being ready for, even if it's a hot sunny day, knowing that it might cool down by the time we get to that campfire. So warm layers, rain jacket is key. If they have rain pants, they will make their lives so much better if there is a lot of rain. And their mug for the hot chocolate in the morning, so a travel mug or a camp mug, something like that is totally fine. Sun hats, sunscreen. We ideally try and avoid bug spray. There isn't really many bugs flying around on Gambier Island anyway. And just a reminder that students need to pack lunch for the first day. So they'll be eating lunch when they arrive. So bringing lunch in a container, and that container will then be used again for the second day. They're going to be eating the lunch outside. They'll be using that container as like a camping bowl or a plate. And then they'll need the container again on day 3 to pack a sandwich into. So bringing a decent sized container is going to be really helpful, and making sure that's always in their bag. Extra snacks, there are snacks throughout the day. They get pretty well fed at Camp Folkham. We don't generally have an issue with kids being hungry, and there's always access to like extra fruit, bananas, things like that. But it really doesn't hurt to pack extra snacks in their bag. We generally try and encourage students not to bring things in lots of wrappers, like granola bars. If they do bring granola bars, maybe just empty them out into a container, just because Gambier Island doesn't have garbage disposal. So it's a pack it in, pack it out situation, except for a compost. So the less wrappers, the better. And I think that's it. So thanks for listening, everyone. And I'm going to open the floor to any questions if anything came up for you guys. No questions. That's a first if I don't think I've ever done a parent meeting with no question. Oh, here we go. There's one in the chat. Runners, or okay, would I recommend runners or trail shoes? Okay, the ideal shoe is a waterproof hiking boot or pair of rubber boots, or I would say a pair of rubber boots and a pair of like trail shoes if they have them. We generally try and say, like, don't go out and buy a bunch of brand new things just for the sake of a 2 or 3 day trip, partly for sustainability reasons and partly because it's not always necessary. Like if you can borrow things, then great. Yeah, things that they can sturdy shoes that they can comfortably walk through the forest, uneven ground, and that might get a bit wet and muddy. One of the morning options that I forgot to mention earlier as well is a polar dip. So wearing a life jacket and going for a morning dunk in the ocean, not a full swim, but like a morning dip. And for that one, if you have like sandals or water shoes, to pack those as well. Should I worry about ticks? There are not ticks on Gambier Island, so you don't need to be worried about ticks. Do they need a sleeping mat? No, they don't need a sleeping mat. There are like mattresses in the cabins. They will need to bring a sleeping bag and a pillow. Generally, if they have like a small travel pillow, that just makes life a bit easier than trying to stuff a massive pillow into their bag. And if they want to bring a bottom sheet for the mattress, they can, but it's not essential. They are like spray down mattresses get sprayed between each use. If we don't have big backpacks, we might let the kids use medium size suitcases. Yeah, use what you have. If you don't have a big backpack, that's fine. We'll absolutely still get them to camp and make it work for sure. Yeah, suitcases are fine. It's just a bit easier because they're going to be taking their bags kind of up a gravelly hill and through to get to the camp, to the site. Backpacks just make life easier, but not an essential. What is in place for bathing and hygiene? Yeah, so there's 2 big washroom blocks. There's plenty of sinks and toilets. Generally, because it's only 2.5 days and there's a lot of students, we generally say, and it's kind of up to the school can make a final call on this, but we generally say if they can go those 2 days without showering, it makes life a lot easier because that's a lot of kids to get in and out of the shower. But if there's, yeah, it might be a case-by-case basis. It might be a call that Brenda makes on whether you want to facilitate having that many kids coming in and out of the shower. But there are sinks, definitely. Is the washroom and shower in a separate building, and is there a place to dry towels and swim gear? Yeah, so yeah, the washroom and shower is in a separate building to the cabins. So we talk at night about having a bathroom buddy. So if they do need to go and pee in the middle of the night, we give them like a really clear good night talk, which includes deciding who your bathroom buddy is, having your flashlight at the ready, and doing that together. And then, is there a place to dry towels? Yeah, in the cabins, if things get wet, either in the cabins or if it's dry and sunny, there's stairways outside the cabins. They can leave their towels to dry out in the sun. Do they need to carry sleeping bags? Yeah, so everyone needs to bring a sleeping bag that for the beds in the cabin. Yes, sleeping bag and a pillow. Hopefully that answers. Any more questions? I'll give it a minute in case anything else comes through, or if I didn't answer anything fully from that list. Should they bring a baggie for garbage? Oh, great question. If so, we have a garbage disposal available, especially for compost. We do have a garbage disposal available. We just try and encourage kids not to use it because it all needs to be packed back out again. But if you are packing snacks that do have lots of wrappers and you want to give your student a little Ziploc bag to take with them, it's not a bad idea, but it's not essential. Are the showers private? Yes, there are doors in the shower stalls. I think there's only two, I can't remember off the top of my head, 2 or 3 stalls per like the girls' washroom and the boys' washroom. So it's not a ton of showers, but they are private. And just to clarify, no sleeping bag. No sleeping bag. The mattresses have, sorry, the bunks have mattresses, but you need the sleeping bag and the pillow. Are grade 6 and 7 sharing cabins, or would they be separate cabins?
The teachers are making the sleeping lists, the cabin lists.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah, typically the cabins are split by gender, but that kind of depends on the teachers and the school and what they want to decide.
Yeah. So I have not asked the teachers that yet. I know they're working on cabin lists at this point.
And I'll mention as well that we ask, I've already mentioned this to Brenda, that we do ask, because you're not bringing senior students, right? It's just the teachers. Yeah, so we ask that teachers stay in the cabins with the students as well. So if anything happens at night, there's an adult on hand.
Okay, well, parents, thank you for coming. If you have any other questions, we will be doing this presentation. Jenny and her crew made some videos for the kids, so they should be all informed as well. But if you have any questions, you can let me know and I will pass them on to Jenny. So thank you very much for coming. And we will also, this has been recorded and we will post this in the next day or so. We will get a link to you so that you can watch it again, or any parents who couldn't make it, if they need to watch it, then that would be good as well. So we'll get that to you in the next day or two. Thank you so much for coming, and I'm going to stop recording now.